It is.
So,
So that's inspired way. Yeah, that's how the I didn't go too deep into the podcast, but yeah, that's kind of how it got started.
so I noticed you do seasons on your podcast, and so I'm just curious of how that works. Like, how long is the typical season and stuff like that?
Yeah. Actually, I am just as clueless as you are on that one. And so I started with a season. I launched with what was going to be season one. And honestly, I could not figure out like, okay, when do I break this season? When do
Yeah.
I start a new season?
Yeah.
And so I just stopped calling them season,
Okay.
like season. I just let it run. And so what I've started doing now more than a season is just trying to do more series. So I just released a series, not that, just a few weeks ago. Actually, it was about a month and a half ago.
Like
That was called,
seasons that just focus
or
on,
series.
yeah, certain things, certain,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So like, for instance, it's a new series on, so I'll still have my interviews,
Okay.
my conversations such as this, which by the way, dude, I really want to have you on as well.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to hear your story. I love your story. How the brain injury and how you got, to where you are today. So we're going to have to schedule that and get you on.
Oh
So
yeah. Absolutely.
yeah, but I have conversations like this, and then I do solo casts, just sharing some thoughts, whether it's musings or contemplations, whatever you want to call it, reflections. I share those, and it's just me. And so with those are the ones that I started a series on. And so the last series that I did was called Ordering Your Private World, or ordering your inner world, right? And so what I mean by that is really our soul, and getting things in order on the inside, because we focus a lot on the external, of what others see, what we present to others of what we want them to see, and really there's a lot more going on the inside of us, and what does that look like? So yeah.
Yeah. So we want to dig into you as a person.
Hmm.
Like, what makes Tim Douglas, what do you do for a living? What direction are you planning on taking for your coaching and stuff like
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. Yeah, man. So I grew up in the upstate of South Carolina, which is basically the foothills of the Appalachians.
Oh, that's a
And
beautiful area.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it is beautiful. And but I moved away. I was like, you grow up in I don't know about you or others, but you live in a beautiful area. But I grew up here, and I just wanted to get away, and so I moved away, and I didn't come back home. Now, granted, I came back for visits, but I literally was gone 27 years. And I lived in Portland, Oregon, Vancouver, Washington, and Boise, Idaho. And just recently moved back to the upstate of South Carolina, again, right in the foothills, kind of basically same area as where I grew up. And not same town, but same area. And just to be closer to my parents,
Yeah.
because, 27 years is a long time, and they've been missing me. So
Oh
I
yeah.
came back. And but I got into right out of high school. I was studying engineering, and got into in high school. I was studying engineering graphics, and then got into land surveying right
So
after high school. Hmm.
you're obviously a smart person, and because you're studying hard things, and so yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, but the funny thing is a lot of that just, I don't know why. I never saw myself as a smart person. Maybe it's because I didn't present myself that well
Yeah,
as a
yeah.
smart person in school.
You
In school, I played around a lot. So, but anyway, I went to school of hard knocks. I didn't, I tried college, and again, I was goofing around way too much. And I thought, man, I'm going to be in so much financial issues and
Yeah.
debt that this is going to be terrible. So I jumped out of school and I just went into the workforce. And man, I just started learning on the job everything. Now, granted, I had some engineering background, and so I went to work for a wastewater district. So I ended up doing all their designs, so designing all the wastewater systems.
That's awesome.
And yeah, and so that really, I did that a little over 10 years, and then went to the private sector because that was public, and then went to the private sector and just again just I had a great mentor, and man, I just soaked it up like a sponge. 6 months into that job, I was running circles around the guy that started, that job. It was just crazy. And so obviously my career was
Taking off.
expanding,
Yeah.
kicking off. Yeah. I mean, I was, like I said, doing leadership positions. I was seen as a leader in the company, just because I actually applied for a job. I went and interviewed for a position, I should say. Went and applied for this position. They gave me a position above that because they were like, "You're definitely qualified, more qualified than that position." So they gave me a position above. 3 months later, they came back and they were like, "Dude, we want to give you another promotion." So they gave
Yeah.
me a promotion 3 months. 6 months later,
And were you
um,
living in the Pacific
yeah,
Northwest? Yeah. Okay.
yeah, yeah. So I was in Portland at the time, and so they gave me anyway. 6 months in, got a promotion, and then at a year, I got another promotion. And so here I was moving pretty quick in that company. And yeah, I was a leader doing stuff over a department, yada, yada, yada. So anyway, I leave that and go into sales, which I'm not a salesman by no means,
Yeah.
but it just was in the same industry. And I knew that
Huh.
industry so well. And I was also someone who was I started multiple groups, like communities of practice or user groups, they call them, around engineering and architecture. And so because of that, I got known as someone in that space, that community that obviously is not quite like engineers. I talk real well. I had a performance review once, and the office manager, I felt like I was just, I bombed it that year just because I wasn't happy with where I was at. I really wasn't happy. I was trying to get outside of the engineering space because I just felt like a fish out of water.
Yeah.
Right. And so he sits down and he throws his pen. This is after I shut the door and sit down. And the first thing he says to me is like, throws his pen on the desk. He was like, "Tim, what the hell are we going to do with you?" And I was like, "Uh-oh."
That could be,
I mean, I'm like,
you could take
yeah,
that one of two ways. Like it could be
exactly.
super positive or it could be super
Super.
negative. Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh no, I'm exposed." Right. They know that I was slacking this year. And because I was feeling like I was slacking. So anyway, long story short, he was like, "You can do anything you want to do in this company. What do you want to do? Your people skills are second to none,
Yeah.
and you're a wasted asset behind a computer screen."
Huh.
I was floored. That was the review. We didn't go any further. I mean, he was like, we did the review, but we don't even feel like it's necessary to talk about. So that sparked something in me, just knowing that I wanted to get out of that industry and be in front of people. And so when I got an opportunity to do sales as a vendor for a large company,
So
Autodesk.
that you made that decision after you got that review.
No, I made the decision that actually came, let's see, because the crash happened right after that,
Okay.
the 2008, 2009, 2010, the market crash, the big, anyway, so I stayed there until 2010. I moved to Boise, Idaho. They don't have an office in Boise. And so me and that company, we parted ways. And so now I'm working for a different company. And now that, I get approached. I never had the idea of going to sales,
Yeah.
never. I got approached to do that. And so when I got approached, I turned it down. That was in 2011. And because I just had some goals that I wanted to achieve. I just started at a new company, this, that, and the other. Started a new user group, actually two in the Boise area because I just moved there. And then I got asked again in 2012, and I'm like, okay, they're coming knocking again. I better
Yeah.
not turn this one down. So, kind of hesitantly or kind of scared. I mean, look, man, I believe you can still have peace that it's the right move to make, but still feel nervous
Yeah.
or still feel a little
Oh,
scared,
yeah, absolutely.
right? And so I felt a little scared to take this move. But I've never done sales before in my entire life. And yet, hey, they see something, and it's really just connecting with people. And I connect with people real well. So anyway, I took a shot at it. The company was terrible, but I did amazing in a year and a half that I was with that company. I grew, the territory over 45%, in a year's time, and just continued to grow. So I left that company, went to another company, and just was smashing it. I mean, so for about 4 years, I did engineering work.
Hmm.
Excuse me, I did sales in
Okay.
that same space. So I was selling software
Yeah.
and services.
What like what goes into that sales job? Like, what are you selling?
Yeah, man. So it was software. So a lot of the software that I had been training. So I trained people on. So I had gotten to a point where I was doing trainings and things like that at different companies or at a national level. So like they have a thing called Autodesk University. So I would teach there once a year. These rooms are like anywhere from 50 to 100 and 200, 300 people in there, and
Yeah.
you're teaching them different things on the
Yep.
on the software. And so I was doing that, obviously, running groups, which are again training. User groups are just for training and understanding and learning. So I was doing that. So they saw that, and so I was, they knew that I knew the software, and so I was selling the software and services, which would be training and things like that, right? So instead of me doing it now, I'm selling the services
Yeah.
for this company that's doing it. So I did that for 4 years. Saw the writing on the wall that some things were changing that was going to affect my bottom line, my income,
Huh.
and so I made a pivot. I left. As a matter of fact, I was planning to leave, and I got let go right before I was
Yeah.
planning to
Yeah.
leave. And so, which is funny because that's a whole nother story. That's a great experience on seeing a leader who's not doing his job, and
Oh,
he
yeah.
knew I knew, and so there were some threats there. Some threatening.
So
I
he
think he felt
kind of
threatened. Yeah, so
kicked
he
you
let me.
out of the,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, I was the number one sales guy, number one team. We were setting records. Like myself was, pulling in some of the highest grossing months that company's ever done,
Yeah.
things like that, and then they let me go. So, but he knew that I knew that he was, and I told him, I said, bro, man, I said, you're the pilot of this ship or this plane,
Trying
and
to
we're
be
nosediving.
respectful.
Yeah, I was just being, because I had that, he was the guy who hired me. He was the vice president. Now he's the president of the company, and him and I would meet on a regular basis, and I had his ear. He allowed me just to share. Just didn't listen to it.
Yeah.
So, and then unfortunately, when I left in 2016, I knew they would not be around a year later. I just knew it.
Huh.
And sure enough, they weren't.
Uh,
They were gone in a year. And so it was good timing for me. But I went as an independent contractor back to engineering. It's what I knew. I was going to, this will be a good little story. And I hope I'm not rambling too much, but
no, no.
I was going to, start a leadership and or organizational health and culture consulting company. And I just didn't feel it inside. Like I had the goods, like a lot of that imposter syndrome. I didn't know what imposter syndrome was
Yeah.
at the time, but that's really what it was. I just couldn't believe in myself enough. Like, who am I? Blah, 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 blah. So I didn't do that. And I went back, I went to created my own company as an independent contractor for engineering firms. And so, and that's what I did for, well, still